But I did grow up in a very low income family, at times a no income family, headed by a single mom. And we did not have any preparation whatsoever for post-secondary education. We barely had food on the table. So it was quite possible I wasn't even going to pursue it in the first place. And in fact, my high school guidance counselor suggested I stick with that waitressing job that I had had since junior high school instead of going away to college. But my mom insisted that I go, saying we would somehow find a way. And I did. I did find a way to attend an undergraduate institution, to pursue that degree while working multiple jobs, and to send money home to help my family.
Welcome to the Health Conscious Living Podcast. Welcome to the Health Conscious Living Podcast. Today, my special guest is Patricia Roberts. Pat is the COO at Gift of College, Inc. She's an attorney, author, and sought-after expert who has spent over 2 decades advancing her mission to educate and inspire families to have brighter outcomes when it comes to paying for higher education. She's the author of Route 529, A Parent's Guide to Savings for College and Career Training with 529 Plans. She is named the Finance Catalyst Changemaker by the Council of Urban Professionals. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you so much, Gayle. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. And it's great to have you again. You know, Pat, one of the biggest health risks that we all face is stress. Stress puts us in survival mode. It lowers our immune system. It causes anxiety and it puts us at risk for multiple health issues. Then add financial stress. That especially affects our long-term health, physically and emotionally and mentally. A recent poll at CNBC in April showed that 73% of people are financially stressed. So covering the cost of higher education just adds to that stressor. So to help us find the solution today, Pat's going to tell us about the 529 plan for higher education costs. So tell us, Pat, what is it and how does it work?
Yes, thank you, Gayle, for these wonderful questions. You know, student loan debt is in the news almost every single day, and no one, except for you here, seem to be focusing on simple steps families can take to avoid it in the first place and to start with something like a 529 plan. So I commend you for covering the topic. 529 plans are a tax advantage account that allows families to save for various forms of higher education. They are named after Section 529 of the Internal Revenue Code. You and others may know of other sections of the code like 401k or 403b. This is simply another section of the code. And it does allow people to begin even with very small amounts, as little as $25 or less, to get started. And what happens with these accounts is that when contributions are made and they grow in value over time, no tax is owed on those contributions. And in fact, when the funds are withdrawn to cover a wide range of education experiences, not just college, and we'll talk about that, no tax is ever owed on those earnings. So less tax can mean more money for college. And as I think you know, 37 states and the District of Columbia offer an added incentive beyond that tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals. Those states offer an annual state tax deduction or credit for contributing to the plans. So these are a terrific way to prepare for the high cost of higher education. And what I really love about the accounts, as I said, easy to get started, even with a small amount, and easy to contribute to over time based on your financial situation. What else I can tell you, Gail, I like about 529 accounts is that the account owner, often a parent, but it could be a grandparent, as you know, or other friend or family member, whoever owns the account stays in control of it at all times. And I think that's very important. We often hope the children in our lives will follow the path that we think is best for them. But in some cases, with certain types of accounts that family members can set up, the child can get to those funds and use them for anything when they become 18 or 21. But with the 529 account, that is not the case. The account owner is the one who decides whether and when to disperse those funds. I like that level of control.
Yes. And so that helps to plan, it helps to forecast, and it helps to reduce stress. So take us back to where you started and how your earlier experiences in life set you up to become the 529 expert.
Yes, those early experiences, as you suggest, definitely had an impact on the career I chose and my passion for this topic. I have a really close personal connection to the stress associated with financing higher education and the joy associated with having done better for my own son. And we can talk about both of those things. But I did grow up in a very low income family, at times a no income family, headed by a single mom. And we did not have any preparation whatsoever for post secondary education. We barely had food on the table. So it was quite possible I wasn't even going to pursue it in the first place. And in fact, my high school guidance counselor suggested I stick with that waitressing job that I had had since junior high school instead of going away to college. But my mom insisted that I go, saying we would somehow find a way. And I did. I did find a way to attend an undergraduate institution, to pursue that degree while working multiple jobs, and to send money home to help my family. So I learned quickly about the cost associated with it, the stress of working all those jobs to get through, but also the rewards of getting that degree and earning much more money than I could have ever earned at that job that I had in high school, and being able to lift my family out of a tough financial circumstance as a result of my pursuit of higher education.
That's incredibly inspiring. Then you went on to become an attorney and your own son. So tell us about that part.
Absolutely. So the undergraduate degree, although I was able to get some grants and scholarships and work those multiple jobs, the undergraduate degree did come with some student loan debt, which I needed to repay upon graduation. I think you get that 6 month grace period. I got my first job and I worked for 6 or 8 years before deciding to pursue yet another degree. And that was a law degree at night while working full time. So that law degree in the undergrad really racked up tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, even though I did it the best possible way I could while working in both cases. But I managed to pay down that debt a little bit at a time. And when my son came into my life, I later married and had a child. I made certain that we would do better for him because both his father and we met in law school at night, had probably over $100,000 in student loan debt when this child entered our life. And we thought there is no way we're going to have him experience the level of stress that we had as both undergraduates, graduate students. And for 20 years following attaining our degrees, it took us that long to pay it back. So, Gail, we started taking a little at a time out of our paychecks and putting it into a 529 college savings plan. And, as much as we thought we couldn't afford to do anything, we did something. And I've got to say, getting started with that plan immediately alleviated some stress from me as a mom. And I felt at least I was doing something. And then over time, as we got our debt paid off, as we started earning more in our jobs, we were able to add more and more. And our son has now graduated with both an undergraduate and graduate degree and no student loan debt, debt-free graduation, which makes us extremely proud given our backgrounds and our vision for his future. So I'm really on a mission, Gail. I think I told you before, two-thirds of Americans do not know what a 529 plan is. And that's really the reason I wrote my book. And I'm talking with individuals like you, appearing in press articles and more to try to get the word out that these accounts exist and they can help you no matter where you are in the journey.
And you're such an inspiration, and you give us the background helps a lot because I'm sure there are a lot of people that are just learning about this and they're overwhelmed that, oh no, I've got I can barely make ends meet. How am I going to start doing this? And that just adds to the stress. But you've just said, do what you can. Even with, like $25, you open the account, and that each time, each increment is just going to help in the whole process. But it also teaches the child. So tell us about that, because how you taught your child has made a very big difference in his life.
Yes, it absolutely has made a difference. And I do want to mention before I tell you about that is that friends and family can contribute to the accounts you open. So you do not need to go it alone. Paying for college or other forms of education can feel like a daunting task. Know that once you get that account open, you can invite others for birthdays, holidays, and other special occasions to skip those gifts that are less valuable and that clutter up your home or are quickly outgrown. And they can contribute as well to the 529 account. And I hope we'll talk about ways employers can help too. But I'll be happy to tell you about Benjamin. We told him in age appropriate ways, really from the time he was maybe 5 or 6, that we were saving for him to go to college. So he knew that was an expectation and that's something we were working on as a family. We encouraged him. He had a piggy bank that he saved all his coins in. His dad and I would put coins in when we got home from work some days if we had them in our pockets. But he would take that piggy bank, cash in those coins once a year, and put that money in his college account. And then sometimes, depending on the Christmas season or birthday, if he felt he had some extra money, he would put part of that money as well in the account. So he was part of the savings process. He knew what we were doing. He also knew that we both did not have that advantage and that it took us a long time to pay back our degrees. So he had an appreciation of it. And his experience now, he wrote the foreword to my book, Route 529, and he speaks in that about the options having that money presented him with. So from looking at different schools and figuring what we could afford as a family, because we did talk at length about that, to deciding what major to pursue, to volunteering while in college, being able to take an unpaid internship one summer, studying abroad. He knew that our efforts over 18 plus years really led to all this. And he has a tremendous sense of appreciation and now a future without debt where he can now, at his very first job, save for retirement. He's living on his own now. I'm an empty nester. He's got his first apartment. He qualified for that apartment, Gail, because he didn't have tremendous debt on his balance sheet. He has good credit. So he's pursuing adult milestones, really free of the type of debt that his dad and I were weighed down by for 20 years following our degrees.
That's truly amazing. And the other part of it that I find very interesting is that when talking about stress, his stress levels when he went to college were lower because he could be there and enjoy the process much more than he would have otherwise. So now tell us how you help employers provide for their employees in the 529 plan.
Yeah, thank you. This is one of my favorite topics because so few Americans are familiar with these plans. The workplace is the perfect place to introduce the existence and usefulness of 529 plans and educate employees about them. So, my company, Gift of College, has a wonderful platform that employers can use. We can be brought in to do education on 529 plans, so perhaps a lunch and learn or a town hall meeting. Some employers have employee resource groups or groups of individual employees like parents. There's a parenting resource group, or maybe there's a disability resource group, which the 529 plans, maybe on a later podcast, we can talk about how they can be used for disability expenses too. But employers invite us in because of our expertise with these plans. So we do education. We also offer payroll deduction, exactly what I did as an employee years ago. We offer a platform where employees can open an account directly with a 529 plan, link it to their payroll, and begin contributing through our platform. That platform also enables the employer to match contributions if they desire to do so. And employers can do that. They can match employee contributions to 529 plan accounts in any way they choose to. Some employers are doing $100 just one time. Others are doing $50 a paycheck, up to $1,200 a year. Really depends on the employer, but we're so thrilled that employers are recognizing the stress employees are under, and they're open to educating them about steps they can take themselves to get an account open and begin contributing. And also they're open to making contributions as an employer. We educate employers to let them know that employees save 75% more when they do it directly from their paycheck. And why is that, Gayle? You probably can guess from a psychological perspective. The money's not first passing through their hands, so they're not tempted to, allocate it for something else. And it's easy, right? When we make things easy and systematic and automate it, they tend to go more smoothly, right? You don't have to make a decision every pay period. Am I going to do that? Am I not? No, I've set it up and the money's flowing. So that seems to work very well for employees. And then the other thing that employers are doing, so education, payroll deduction, matching if they choose to, and then they're doing gift cards. You know about our gift cards. We have gift cards available for contributions to 529 accounts. Some employers are starting to give these when an employee goes out on maternity or paternity leave. Instead of a silver spoon, instead of a onesie and a teddy bear and some things that are going to maybe be of less value to the employee, they're giving money to start a 529 account. And some employers are giving my book, Route 529, along with the gift card. But we also have other forms of education they can give, short of giving a book. But I love hearing about the fact that employers are doing that. I mean, as an employee, to remember who got me started with this important goal, wouldn't you feel good about that? I know I would. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And also knowing that they're matching. So they're supporting and they're matching. So it just makes it amplifies it. So then that changes the workplace culture as well. When you know that your employer is actually supporting you to support your future. And that is makes for a happier employee and a lot less stress. And you have especially you have given so much in this field. Tell us about who you've helped.
Well, let's see. I feel I've helped, tens of thousands of families through my work through the years. I mean, this has been over 2 decades. I guess I'll never know for certain the exact number, but based on the 529 plans, which I've worked, some of which have had tens of thousands of account owners, and based on a platform I helped build in New York City, whereby now over 250,000 children in New York City are getting seed money for college. I helped build this philanthropic platform called New York City Kids Rise Save for College program. That alone has over 250,000 families touched by it. But I would say many, many families. I don't know through the book sales, Gail, you know, I've been in probably hundreds of news media articles. It's hard to know who's reading, who's seeing through the workplace, employers of all sizes. How many employees am I reaching? I'd say a lot, and it makes me feel really good. I'll never know for certain, but if I can help a family cut down on this intergenerational cycle of debt, which many families are in, when a parent has tremendous student loan debt, they often can't save for their own child's future. They're weighed down by their own debt. Then the child takes out student loans. Then that parent may feel responsible and take out parent loans for that child. Now they've got their own school loans and their child's loans. People are reaching retirement years and in some cases the end of their lives, and they still have not repaid the student loan debt that they borrowed. So if I can do anything to help, any number of families avoid that for themselves, I feel so uplifted that I've had the opportunity to do so, because it is tremendously stressful for families. And I love teaching them about simple steps they can take to avoid that debt in the first place, to make sensible decisions, Gail, when the time comes to choose a school. The dream school's not always possible, and that's disappointing. I understand that. But if the dream school, the net cost of it is going to lead to a lifetime of nightmares, financial nightmares, it's not worth it in the end. So I encourage families, in addition to taking these steps to prepare as well as they can for whatever the cost will be, I also encourage them to talk to their student about it starting at a young age, and to get on the same page about how much money is available. So when you're looking at those schools, you're letting them know what's reasonable and what's not, and that you're going to have to wait to see what kind of financial aid perhaps they're offered, what's the net cost, and what's going to work and what's not going to work for your family, because there's far too many disappointments at that very late stage. The acceptance letter comes and there's the joy of I'm going to go without ever having talked about who's going to pay for it. How are we going to pay for it? What kind of life will you have if you have to borrow a tremendous amount of money? So I talk to parents about that as well. I think it's twofold. It's taking steps to prepare, it's getting your child involved, and then it's being realistic about which school to attend. There's nothing wrong with attending first a community college, perhaps, living at home for a year or two, staying local, then perhaps going on to the school you desire, or maybe for graduate school someday, going after that dream school. But it's not, I personally do not think it's worth it for a child at 17 or 18 to be signing on the dotted line, um, to agree to repay a tremendous amount of debt, never knowing exactly what they're going to earn in the future, what their life's going to look like. I think it's much better to take your head out of the sand, talk about it, really talk about it, and think about it as a family. Do what you can to prepare, and then look at it realistically when the time comes. I think that will be a tremendous stress reducer. May be disappointing, may not be what the child wants to hear, that this is not affordable, it's not going to work out at first, not yet. And to make a decision that's sensible for the family's well-being, the overall well-being of the family, I think is very important here.
Because it opens the door to get started. And once you get started in higher education, you can expand from there once you have begun the process. But you've brought a lot of information to us today, and a lot of education and a lot of hope, because you've given us information, you've given us steps and solutions. So this is one very big solution for financial stress for parents and for students. And so, Pat, what would you like to leave the audience with? What pearl?
I'd love to leave the audience with my own experience of how good it feels to have taken the steps to prepare for my son's future, despite the circumstances under which I grew up, despite the debt that I paid back. I feel so satisfied in having the knowledge of 529 plans, which your listeners now have, the courage to open an account and to start making contributions, the vision of what I wanted. I want your listeners to think about, what do they want when their child's about to pursue some form of education after high school? How do they want it to look? What preparation do they want to have experienced? And I want to assure you that vision can become a reality, as it did for me, if you take the steps you need to take. And the first step is always the hardest, to just get started. So the pearl of vision, I would say, is to get started, and to do so as soon as you can. There's a tremendous amount of information online about 529 plans. This isn't the only way to save. There are many ways to save, but take a look at this one, given the valuable tax advantages. Do something, get started, invite friends and family, talk to your employer, and don't go it alone.
That's what I was going to add. As a grandparent, thank you for educating us, because we have been able to contribute. And make sure, check with your state to see if it is a deduction for the contributors, so you can get the family involved, the friends involved, so that you could call this an education party planning.
In it. And Gail, it opens the most beautiful conversations about what the child might be interested in pursuing in the future, what education it takes to get there, what wonderful things to be discussing around the Thanksgiving table or Christmas time or at a birthday party. It's a gift that really is very forward focused, and I think one that everyone can feel good about. No buyer's remorse here in terms of giving the gift of education.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for that. And how can people get in touch with you?
My email address is patricia@giftofcollege.com. So giftofcollege.com. I am also very active, as you know, Gail, on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Maybe we can even put my link in your show notes. And my book, Route 529 or Route 529, depending on how you pronounce it, is available on Amazon.
Well, thank you. We will have those in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today. And may more people listen, hear, and take your wisdom to heart. So thank you, Pat.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to work with me for more insight, go to my website and book a private session. And check out my latest transformational meditation. Have a blessed day.